The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey! Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we need to rethink and decriminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
Good day, tokers and tokeheads, and welcome to the show. It is Wednesday, December 18th, 2013, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. So glad you could be here today. All sorts of great stuff happening here at 420 Radio. I met with Doug McVeigh from the Drug War Facts. You got to check out this at drugwarfacts.org. They've got a great podcast now called Drug Policy Facts, and we will be debuting it here on 420 Radio coming this January on our new 2014 lineup. We got all sorts of new shows debuting on our 2014 lineup, so stay tuned. Check out the website at 420radio.org/shows, or actually /replays, excuse me. The button says shows on the website. Maybe I should make those the same. But whatever, find that there and you'll see us as we are adding more and more shows from New Mexico and Michigan and Saskatchewan and Spain. And speaking of new shows, today on our Daily Toker Tunes for Irie Wednesday, Gordon Green joins us from Spain to talk about the debut of his new music show, Gordon Green's Music Planet, that will be coming out in our January lineup. And he's got some great music from Morgan Heritage for us, so stay tuned for that. Today was a big day for those of us who like to follow the data in the drug war. The Monitoring the Future study has come out. This is the one that tracks the 8th, 10th, and 12th graders in the United States and their use of drugs and alcohol and tobacco. And, of course, the media is reporting on it. In our Radical Rant, we're going to take a look at how they are twisting and bending and looking every way they can to try to make pot seem bad and ignoring the elephant in the room, and that is drug use is fallen. Alcohol use has fallen amongst our nation's teenagers. Also on today's show, in Behind the Headlines, we're going to take a look at the Washington State Liquor Control Board, which has come out with new recommendations for how it wants to deal with the medical marijuana program. There's a lot of good news in there for patients and maybe some not so great news in there, but we'll take a look at that in Behind the Headlines. And of course, we'll start out with our 420 Radio News. We've got the headline on that Monitoring the Future story from the New York Times. Also, a little bit on the Washington State story. We've got a verdict in the case of Daisy Bram. We've got a study in Washington looking at marijuana demand, and a debate tonight in St. Louis, Missouri. Marijuana legalization, pro versus con. We'll tell you who's in it. All that coming up on the Russ Belville Show.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, "I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure. I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa." Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com. Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today.
This is your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, December 18th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. Increasing marijuana use in high school is reported from the New York Times. A new federal report shows that the percentage of American high school students who smoke marijuana is slowly rising, while the use of alcohol and almost every other drug is falling. According to the latest federal figures, which were part of an annual survey monitoring the future, more than 12% of 8th graders and 36% of seniors at public and private schools around the country said they had smoked marijuana in the past year. About 60% of high school seniors said they did not view regular marijuana use as harmful, up from about 55% last year. The report looked at a wide variety of drugs and substances. It found, for example, that drinking was steadily declining, with roughly 40% of high school seniors reporting having used alcohol in the past month, down from a peak of 53% in 1997. Cigarette smoking has also fallen precipitously in recent years. For the first time since the survey began, the percentage of students who smoked a cigarette in the past month dropped below 10%. Officials want to keep home grows for medical marijuana patients from the Seattle Times. The State Liquor Control Board recommended that home growing still be allowed for medical marijuana patients, reversing an earlier proposal that inflamed activists and patients. Board members who are charged with implementing the state's new recreational pot system want to allow patients or designated caregivers to grow up to 6 plants at a time, 3 flowering and 3 non-flowering. Quote, "Enough people in the medical marijuana community convinced us. We listened to them," end quote, said Sharon Foster, Liquor Control Board Chair. Those who called for retaining home grows also included Allison Holcomb, chief author of the state's legal weed law, and Senator Jean Cole Wells, Democrat of Seattle, the legislature's premier supporter of medical marijuana. Jury convicts woman on marijuana and child endangerment counts, from Chicoer.com. A jury has convicted a woman on marijuana and child endangerment counts for a grow and conditions at her Conco area residence in 2011. The Butte County Superior Court panel of 4 men and 8 women took about 6 hours before reaching a verdict today in the trial of Daisy Jean Bram, age 33. The jury found Daisy Bram guilty of felony counts of cultivating marijuana and possessing it for sale. Investigators found 95 marijuana plants and 7.1 additional pounds at Bram's Yellowwood Road residence on September 29, 2011. Bram had faced 2 child endangerment counts, 1 each for her 2 young sons, regarding unsafe elements inside the house, including marijuana left in the open and indications of other drug use. Bram, who represented herself at trial, said she wasn't allowed a proper defense, not being allowed to cite her medical marijuana recommendation under Prop 215. Study looks at marijuana demand in Washington from ABC News. Researchers working with the state's official pot consultant think they have their best look yet at cannabis consumption in Washington, aided by a novel survey aimed at figuring out how much the heaviest users of marijuana burn on a typical day. In a study released Wednesday, a Rand Corporation team figured that Washington's roughly 750,000 marijuana users will have consumed between 135 and 225 metric tons of the drug in 2013. The median figure they came up with is 175 metric tons, more than twice what the state estimated before voters approved Washington's legal weed law last year. Marijuana debate expected to draw a huge crowd from Fox 2 Now. Wednesday night, a huge crowd is expected to hear both sides of the passionate debate on whether to legalize marijuana in Missouri. Show Me Cannabis Executive Director John Payne will face off with Sergeant Jason Grellner, Vice President of the National Narcotics Officers Coalition, in an effort to inform the public about the pros and cons of making marijuana legal in Missouri, not just for medical purposes, but for recreational use. Payne's group, Show Me Cannabis, gave the Secretary of State initiatives for legalizing marijuana and is now waiting to get the ballot language and begin polling the public. One of the big issues sure to be discussed in the debate is whether legalized pot will increase drug use with teenagers. Law enforcement from across the state are expected to come to St. Louis Wednesday night for this debate, as well as a strong show of support for those who want marijuana legal. It's at 7 p.m. tonight, St. Louis time. This has been your 420 Radio News for Wednesday, December 18th, 2013. I'm Russ Belville. When we come back, we go behind the headlines on the new recommendations from the Washington State Liquor Control Board on how to deal with medical marijuana in the recreational marijuana system. You're listening to The Russ Belville Show on 420radio.org. We'll be right back.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today.
I'm a reefer smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go. 420radio.org presents a live original production of the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour every Friday night, 2 hours live at 8 p.m. Pacific Time. The best in 420 friendly rock and metal, backstage interviews, concert coverage, festival footage, and more with Herb Thrasher and Radical Russ. Featuring replays every Saturday at 8 o'clock, Mondays at 10 a.m., and Tuesdays at 3 a.m., right here on 420radio.org.
Welcome back, everyone. Time for us to go behind the headlines. It's 15 after, and we're going to take a look at those Washington medical marijuana recommendations. They just came down from the Washington State Liquor Control Board, and the big headline out of that is their flip now on home grow. Originally, they wanted to completely eliminate the right of patients in Washington State to grow their own medicine. They've flipped on that after massive public outcry, led by patient advocates. Carrie Boiter from Americans for Safe Access in Washington helped on that. Allison Holcomb, who helped write the recreational law, or wrote the recreational law, and Gene Colwell's in the Senate, all helped to organize, and people, patient groups organized and made their voices heard, and the Liquor Control Board has flipped. Now, some will say that this is, a little bit of a bittersweet victory, because it would still be a reduction. Patients in Washington State right now get to grow 15 plants, and that's the consideration of how much they need to maintain a 60-day supply. This would change it to 3 flowering and 3 non-flowering, a total of 6 plants. And a lot of patients are going to be upset by that. What makes that a difficult argument is in so many other medical marijuana states, that's what the limits are. So you're kind of asking for Washington to get a special treatment compared to other states. The patient groups will say the 15 plant limit was carefully considered, because originally Washington State had 60-day supply, and that's what was voted on by the people. And after very careful consideration and consulting experts on this, they found 15 plants is what you'd need for a 60-day supply. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But I can't see the Washington State Liquor Control Board wanting to give much on this and wanting to give people the right to grow so many plants where they're going to fear there's going to be the situation of diversion and those factors. Some other things they've made here, some recommendations they've made: establish a mandatory registry for patients. This seems to be a no-brainer to me. And not just because that it's not really an onerous thing, but it's going to provide protection to these patients. Right now, patients are still subject to arrest until they can prove they're a patient. And that requires having this tamper-proof paper where your recommendation is written on it and so on. Every other state that has medical marijuana has a mandatory registry, with the exception of California and Colorado. Colorado's is voluntary, I believe. No, is Colorado's mandatory? I don't recall. But almost every other state has this. And it's a system that by and large is working well, helps the police to identify who are the people that are sick enough to not put in a cage. I can't anticipate what the blowback on this would be, just the mandatory registry. They also recommend reducing the amount a patient can possess at any one time from 24 ounces to 3 ounces. And again, 3 ounces, if you're doing a comparison with other states, is a pretty generous allotment. Most of these states are topping out at about 2 or 1.5 ounces. But when you're used to 1.5 pounds, it's going to be real difficult to go down to 3. And a lot of people are talking about those who make the oils, especially like these high CBD oils, are going to need much more than that, much more than 3 ounces to be able to make any decent amount of their product. So this too is going to get a lot of blowback from the patient community. But I think the one that's going to make them the angriest is use the same level of taxes as the recreational system, 25% tax at the producer, processor, and retail levels, but exempt the patients from state and local taxes, which in Washington State averages out about 8.5% or so. So they'd get an 8% tax break, but still have to pay these 25 times 3 taxes that everyone else pays if they're going to be shopping in the marijuana markets. And, I can see where they want to make their money, but I think that the patient market is such a smaller market compared to the recreational market. It's only like 10% of the people that use marijuana are these patients. But what they're looking at is the fact that the patients are the ones that use the most marijuana. So if you're going to have any sort of tax scheme, you got to recognize that, 20% of your marijuana users use 80% of the marijuana. And the final recommendation is only licensed recreational stores with specific state approval can sell to medical marijuana patients. This would effectively eliminate the dispensaries in the state. You'd have to be a licensed recreational store, and we've seen the licensing processing process that's going on there in Washington State. They have to, fill all these fees they have to pay and background checks they have to go through. There's going to be a great change here in the Pacific Northwest as far as what people in the medical communities are used to. It's been, wide open for a long time. It's going to start closing down, I'm afraid. Now, I support everybody who wants to fight this, who wants to argue for greater limits for patients, but I think we're getting to a point here, especially in the West, where it's going to have to be a more generalized system.
Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com and follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up! What makes something funny? How does humor impact health and psychological well-being? How can you incorporate humor into everyday life? A concise, reader-friendly introduction to an important but often underappreciated topic in modern psychology, Humor 101 explains the role of comedy, jokes, and wit in the sciences and discusses why they are so important to understand. Psychology professor Dr. Mitch Earlywine draws from his personal experiences in stand-up comedy to focus on how humor can regulate emotion, reduce anxiety, and diffuse tense situations.
I'm a doctor.
I'm a lawyer.
I'm a journalist.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Irie Wednesday, featuring reggae, ska, and other world music genres. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
Welcome back, everybody. Time for some Irie Wednesday music. We got Gordon Green on the line, calling from Europe. How you doing, Gordon?
Hey, Russ. How you doing, Steve?
I'm fantastic, and looking forward to the new year, where we will be debuting a brand new show. Gordon, why don't you tell us about Gordon Green's Music Planet?
Hey, man. I am super happy to be announcing my new show, Gordon Green's Music Planet. Debuts on Wednesday, January 8th at 11 a.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. GMT, and I'm going to be playing great music from all over the world. Even if you haven't heard a lot of music from other countries, I'm going to turn you on to it and show you that you don't have to understand the words to dig the music, and I'm going to prove it starting January 8th, Gordon Green's Music Planet.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to that because you're going to have a lot better access to world music than anyone, than myself or anyone I know. So I'm really going to be a good show. Excited for that night. And I was hoping that by putting it 11 a.m. Pacific, we'd land you in a primetime spot in Europe. So it sounds like it worked out okay.
Hey, man, it's going to be great. I'm going to be on in the morning in places, be on in the evening other places, plus with the replays, hopefully reach a good audience and just really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Expanding everybody's musical horizons. Gordon Green's Music Planet coming up Tuesday, January 8th, 11 a.m. and our new morning blocks that we're establishing. We got about 6 or 7 new shows we'll be debuting. All right, let's get to our song for today. We always give you a little reggae here to keep things irie, and I see you've got some Morgan Heritage for us. Tell us about today's tune.
Yeah, Morgan Heritage is a group of, they're actually all the children of Jamaican reggae legend Dinroy Morgan. And they've been a band for more than 20 years. This song is from their 2005 album called Full Circle. And it's a great jam. It's called Uncomfortable, or also known as Hail to the Lion. And hope you dig it, man, on today's Irie Wednesday.
All right. Thank you, Gordon. We'll talk to you next year. Have a happy new year.
Peace out, Russ.
The wrath of Jah now comes down. Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion. Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion. All prophecies have been fulfilled, eh? To Rastafari done bust the seals, eh? Open your eyes, look over land and seas. Behold the ice, gold and green rainbow. It surrounds the golden throne of the lion, yo. No man on earth can dispute this truth, oh no. Words of truth manifest upon creation. Words from a nation. Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion. Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion. Babylon will receive a judgment for the hurt that they inflict upon the meek of the earth. For they know not what life is worth. Righteousness must always come first. Know that he that sitteth in Jah heaven shall laugh, for they are those who have escaped the wrath. So hold firm now, my brother. The time has come for Babylon to go down. Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion. Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion.
Revolutionaries coming and we coming on Zion's train. Answer the call cause the path has been ordained. Blaze up the tower so the ice could be maintained. See the wicked fall as they fight against Dodge away. Youths of today say we got no time to waste. Life that we live is the story that will remain. Heathens fretting cause the lion they crown the king. Babylon believe your kingdom will be born.
Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion. Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion. All prophecies have been fulfilled, eh? To Rastafari done bust the seals, eh? Open your eyes, look over land and seas. Behold the ice, gold and green rainbow. It surrounds the golden throne of the lion, yo. No man on earth can dispute this truth, oh no. Words of truth manifest upon creation. Words from a nation. Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion. Uncomfortable Babylon will be from this day on, because the rebels done start up the revolution. No one to trouble, best you listen to the Rastaman. And hail the lion, hail up the lion.
71 big yard, H&G yard. Who says Rasta? Rockers. Yes, sir. Boom. Rockers. You know, big yard, H&G yard. Yeah, Gordon, you know. Sure.
I'm Subcool from Team Green Avenger. At TGAgenetics.com, we are working on the leading edge of medical strains. Our strains are rigorously tested for THC, CBD, THCV, and other critical cannabinoids. Know your grow. Check out our genetic diversity at TGAgenetics.com, the home of Jelly Bean, Jack the Ripper, Vortex, and other award-winning cannabis strains.
Ever wonder how often to change your bong water? The most effective method for baking pot brownies? The best destinations for a ganja getaway? How to hide herb in your car? Whether to grow your own? How precisely to legalize it? Or how something as wonderful as marijuana ever got to be illegal in the first place? Finally, you can find all these answers and much more in the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook, featuring 420 things to do when you're stoned. Since 1974, High Times Magazine has covered marijuana in all its aspects and wonders, from cultivation to legalization to the herb's enduring and exalted place in popular culture. Packed with inside information, the official High Times Pot Smoker's Handbook rolls all of this collected wisdom together into a single indispensable ganja guide, including an entertaining look at marijuana's history, profiles of herb-friendly travel destinations and festivals, favorite potluck recipes from the High Times staff, smoking skills, advocacy and activism, essential marijuana movies and songs, profiles of famous cannabis strains, comprehensive growing information, celebrity endorsements, and much more. This is truly, finally, the ultimate guide to green living.
420radio.org presents Cannabis Common Sense with Paul Stanford and Casper Leach from Portland, Oregon, one of Cable Access's longest-running marijuana legalization talk shows. Premiering every Friday at noon with replays Sunday at 6 p.m. and Monday at 5 a.m. and 11 p.m. Pacific Time, right here on 420radio.org.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
Welcome back, everyone. 31 after the hour, and today we get a report from one of my favorite activists in the whole wide world. Sharon Ravert from Peachtree Normal in Atlanta, Georgia is on the air. Sharon, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you to my favorite Marijuana Nation host.
Well, great. There's not a whole lot of us, but thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, there's not a whole lot of Southern activists either, Russ.
Well,
so.
I know, and that's why I wanted to talk to you because, you know, I have a soft spot in my heart for Southern activists because I think they're facing the toughest audiences and the strongest the strongest opposition, I would say, of anybody who's fighting for marijuana legalization. You guys are doing some great work down there in Georgia, and before we get to what you've been doing the past, let's talk about the future. I know you've got a big presentation coming up at the King Center shortly, so can you tell us what's the latest on that?
Yeah, that'll be the last week in March when we'll be hosting that. We're going to be having Neil Franklin with LEAP, some people with the NAACP. We're going to be pretty much focusing on the ACLU's report that came out at the King Center and pretty much trying to put our legislators in front of these people. That's why we're choosing the King Center, of course, is hopefully to bring it more, you know, they'll be more apt to come there than to the Southern Cannabis Reform Conference being held at a bar or at a venue like that. So that's the main reason that we've come out with that. It'll be a little late because it'll be near the end of the legislative session, but we've got lots planned for January through March, so they'll be ready to maybe come out and discuss it by then.
Excellent. And I also saw via, I think, Twitter or Facebook, I can't remember which one, you were involved in doing some work with the hip-hop artist Jasiri X, who we met at the Drug Policy Conference. What's up with that?
Yeah, great activist. We met out there, like you said, in Denver, and he will be coming to Atlanta on Friday, tomorrow. No, what's today? Wednesday? No, Friday. In a couple of days, sorry, I'm off key on what day it even is. But Friday, he'll be coming in, and he is going to be doing some spoken word and giving a little presentation to some friends of ours with the NAACP as a fundraiser. And then afterwards, he's going to be doing a show for a couple hours. So we're real excited about that. I've bought my tickets. I'm going, and I've talked to him a couple of times, and going down there to meet him. He has given us the opportunity to meet up with some other hip-hop artists in Atlanta that he knows, and we're just trying to get everybody down here in Atlanta fired up about what's going on in the next 3 months, and he's going to be a big part of it. So we're excited to have him.
Yeah, Jasiri X will give you something to discuss, that's for sure. If people want information on this or tickets, where can they find it?
Well, you can go to the NAACP Clayton County and look it up. Probably Google it. They're selling tickets via Eventbrite. So if you go there and choose the city of Atlanta, that's the way I found it. I'm just telling you the way I found it. Choose the city of Atlanta under Eventbrite and put in NAACP Clayton County fundraiser. I believe it's called Passing the Torch. The boomers passing it down to the hip-hop artists, you know, the younger generation, is kind of the theme of the fundraiser. So.
Well, that sounds like an excellent idea. All right, let's get to the recent event you were just at in New Orleans, the Southern Harm Reduction Conference. Do I have that right?
That's exactly right. And this year they actually called it the Southern Harm Reduction and Drug Policy Network Conference.
Oh.
This is the first year that the Southern Harm Reduction has included marijuana law reform and marijuana activists. So this was a first for them.
And how did that turn out? I know because we were out in Denver at the Drug Policy Conference, and Ethan Nadelman made a point of calling out marijuana reformers to say, you know, make sure you don't abandon the drug reform fight after marijuana becomes legalized. I know that's not quite the case that, you know, in Georgia yet, or in New Orleans, Louisiana yet, but how well did the groups mix, and did you feel like they learned a lot from each other?
Yeah, they mixed a lot. I had a lot of people come up to me. I was presenting on a couple of panels, and so I had a lot of discussions with people that know nothing about it. We were well received, as we received them well. They, of course, work on a whole host of things. Mainly right now we're working on the Good Samaritan laws, and they are as well across the South and across the country. Good Samaritan laws and the naloxone that will help prevent overdoses from opiates. That's their main focus right now, and we have something in Georgia that is going to be introduced in January concerning that, and that's the way I met up with Robert Childs, and he is with the North Carolina Harm Reduction, and he's pretty much the lead of the entire Southern Hemisphere when it comes to this. But yeah, Ethan Nadelman was there in New Orleans, and he spoke, and it's the same kind of thing. He was kind of asking these people to educate themselves on our issues as well, and we're trying to coalition build that way.
That's great to hear. And what was the turnout? I mean, how many people showed up at this event?
I believe the numbers were about 380, if I'm not. I believe that's what they said. They had grown, you know, this is only their third one. The last one last year didn't have anywhere near as many people, and it was in Atlanta. Yeah, they're growing exponentially, and more people are getting involved. They deal with a lot of HIV and needle exchanges for HIV and hepatitis C, and these are the people that are out on the streets really trying to help what I would say are heavier drug users, and trying to protect them from spreading disease and from getting disease themselves.
Is there any crossover in those policy groups where it's maybe suggested that marijuana use is a harm reduction for other drugs?
That was brought up by me, yeah. Yeah, I brought up the whole instead of the gateway drug, you know, that I felt like it was, you know, the least harmful and the exit drug. And that was just brought up briefly in the panel, and that discussion continued. The one discussion that I found was interesting that kind of shocked me, and I didn't know how to even talk to the woman about it. I met an activist from California that has done a lot of work with marijuana legalization and marijuana law reform out there throughout the years, probably 20 years now. And she was ready. I mean, she point blank looked at me and said, "I'm ready to quit the marijuana movement." and that her main concern, and I just want to put that out there for everybody, is that this whole tax and regulate system that we've come up with, that we are pretty much trying to use to sell to people, because of the benefits of the money involved. She said that that's her issue, that's her problem, that the people of lower means that use cannabis are not ever going to be able to afford it once it's taxed. Of course, I brought up the fact that I felt like, the price would drop once it was legalized, especially legalized, all over the country, and that I would hope that the prices with the taxes and everything else would not exceed what they are now, and if they're getting marijuana now, it hopefully would be even less expensive. She didn't fly for that. I didn't even know how to answer her, but she got pretty upset. And but come to find out after that she was pretty upset and had things to say at every single panel, so I wasn't so concerned. I think we left as friends. I mean, we actually walked outside and smoked a cigarette together, and she told me she wasn't attacking me. She's just attacking the movement in general.
Right.
So
there's some of that going around for sure. At these events, another feature of them is the chance to network and get to meet people, and especially in a beautiful American city like New Orleans. Can you tell us about some of the people you met, maybe some of the things you saw in the Crescent City?
Yeah, I met a lot of new people. These aren't people, honestly, the only people that I knew there were the few SSDP folks. Drew Stromberg was there and a few others. I took a couple of kids from Georgia SSDPs, some of the colleges here with me. So I met a lot of new people, people that are working in Atlanta. I met a couple of representatives that are from the Savannah, Georgia area that were there. So we made a lot of connections, and we all hooked up. We went out to a beautiful dinner at a place called Cane and Table down on Frenchman Street. I haven't been to New Orleans since the Georgia Bulldogs played in 1980. That'll tell you how old I am. Down there. But yeah, it was fun. It was a great time. I didn't get to, like at most conferences, I didn't get to stay, an extra day or anything. So we didn't get to get out of the hotel that much. But you know how those go. Mm-hmm. They're work.
Absolutely. But what a beautiful time. The Southern Harm Reduction Conference. This was their 3rd annual conference, right?
Yes, I believe it is. They're thinking about holding it either in Nashville or Asheville next year. So we're looking forward to it. Maybe you can come down for that one, Russ.
That would be fantastic. A great place to go in December. And then coming around spring of 2014, the Southern Cannabis Conference. Is that still going on?
Yeah, we're probably going to push it down to one day. I believe what we've got planned at this point is we're going to do the program at the King Center on a Friday, and then we will hold the Southern Cannabis Reform Conference at the same place that we did last year at the Quad on that Saturday, and we're going to kind of put them in together. We've got an awful lot to get done from January until then with the legislators. We have a poll coming out in January we're so excited about, and a lot's going on, so we're going to cut it kind of in half, or I should say we're going to do one at one place and one at the other. One's going to be more geared, like I said, more towards our legislators, and the other one will be geared more towards activism and the activists and educating the public.
Sounds great, and I can't wait to get down there. I'll see you for those conferences in 2014, and we'll continue to report on what's going on all throughout the South here on 420 Radio. We've got our Listen to Your Mother segments coming up as well. We'll continue to interview more great activists. Sharon Ravert with Peachtree Normal. You're doing such a great job down there, folks. Check out peachtreenormal.org, and thanks again for being a part of 420 Radio.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, you betcha. All right, we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, what about the children? We're going to talk about... That's right. We're going to talk about the children. The Monitoring the Future study has come out, and the news media headlines are so alarming. We'll get down to what the real data is and the good news from this survey when we come back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Marijuana and alcohol are the two most popular recreational drugs in America. Marijuana smoking is non-toxic, relatively safe, and has a low risk of dependence. Alcohol drinking is potentially fatal, dangerous to society, and is quite addictive. Marijuana is safer, so why are we driving people to drink? That's the question of the new book, Marijuana is Safer, So Why Are We Driving People to Drink? By Paul Armentano, Mason Tvert, and Steve Fox. Visit Amazon.com or ChelseaGreen.com today to order your copy of Marijuana is Safer, or visit
Yours?
No,
Your mother said she found it in your closet.
I don't know. One of the guys must have...
Must have what?
Look, Dad, it's not...
Where did you get it?
Dad,
Answer me. Who taught you how to do this stuff?
You, all right? I learned it by watching you.
Parents who use drugs have children who use drugs.
The Russ Belville Show reminds you to never smoke and drive impaired. Hang out for a while and share.
Cause the day was hard and your work was long and you need a break from all that's wrong. You better look at the clock cause it's 4:19. Time to reach in that pocket for your bag of green and smoke that weed.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth!
And you have offended the Shaolin Temple.
You can't handle the truth!
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley. Radical rant.
Well, the Monitoring the Future study has come out, and the headlines are screaming about this new data, especially in post-legalization America, about how the kids are smoking the weed. Oh my God, they're smoking the weed! Here's some of the headlines. This from Here and Now, 90.9 WBUR, Boston's NPR station. Study: teens obtaining medical marijuana. Okay. Teens obtaining medical marijuana. What do we got here from the PBS NewsHour? 60% of 12th graders do not view marijuana as harmful. This one, what else do we got here? The Reuters story, U.S. teens smoke marijuana but back off other drugs, is a little better. Oh, here's one. Live Science. Teens' marijuana use continues to rise. So this big study comes out, and apparently more kids are smoking pot. Teens' marijuana use continues to rise. 60% of the 12th graders don't think it's harmful, and they're getting medical marijuana. Oh my God! You'd think it was a study that only talked about marijuana. Strangely enough, though, the Monitoring the Future survey surveys American 8th, 10th, and 12th graders on a variety of drugs and their use and perception of them. And my good friend Paul Armentano of Normal has a great blog on this. The title of it tells you all you need to know. Teen use of alcohol and tobacco falls to historic lows, but all the media and the feds want to talk about is pot. This is the big story coming out of the Monitoring the Future survey, if you look at it, is the use of drugs among teenagers, among the young, has gone down in just about every category for every drug. That's great news, isn't it? The McClatchy Wire story was Feds decry rising marijuana use among kids, despite the fact that the title of the study's own press release, the press release that came out from Monitoring the Future, said the rise in teen marijuana use stalls. Yes, contrary to what these alarmist headlines are saying about teen marijuana use going up, it's pretty much flatlined. Now, there's some bumps and, up and down depending on, 30-day use, lifetime use, whatever you want to look at. But it's pretty much statistically insignificant. They've pointed out that currently the use of marijuana by teenagers is lower than it was ever at its historic highs of the late 1970s. Even looking at the reports in here, what they found here, the Reuters story mentions that the survey found 6.5% of high school seniors are smoking marijuana daily, compared with 6% a decade ago, and 2.4% in 1993. Yeah, and in 1979, it was about 8-9%, right? They also point out that 4% of 10th graders said they smoked the drug daily and 18% within the last month. We should be extremely concerned, said Nora Volkoff of the National Institute of Drug Abuse. Also points out that the potency is so much worse. Oh, it's so much more potent. All right, let's get to this. Like we said, the teen use that's supposedly on the rise is actually pretty much flatlined as far as the past 3-4 years. It had been going up, but it's pretty much flatlined at this point. And the teen use of alcohol and tobacco, and more importantly, spice and K2 and other drugs has fallen. Now, CBS News actually did a good job of getting this one down. Their headline was Synthetic Marijuana Use Down, but Real Pot Use Up among teens. So they got it half right. The real pot use isn't really that much. And when you combine the decline in the use of synthetic marijuana use with this other headline from PBS about 60% of 12th graders do not view marijuana as harmful, what this tells us is kids are getting the message about the synthetic pot. They're starting to understand that it is more dangerous than the real thing. It isn't something that you want to mess around with. The 60% of 12th graders not viewing marijuana as harmful shows us that 3 out of 5 kids can read the internet. That's what it tells us. It tells us that the kids now, who were told for so long all drugs are bad, they're all the same, don't do any of them, they're all equally bad, are starting to figure out that was bullshit, and so are not viewing marijuana as harmful. They're viewing it with less of harm, as they had been scared into viewing it through the lies of our government and our propaganda. They also have had the personal experience of knowing some kid who smokes pot who's doing just fine, who's getting along just fine, goes to school, gets his homework turned in, gets decent grades, maybe has a little after-school job, and he smokes pot every now and then. And you just cannot lie to these kids like this anymore. It used to work back in the early days when there was no internet and no social networking and people couldn't look up the scientific studies for themselves. But these kids are smart, and this is the thing that gets so frustrating in dealing with drug policy and people that are worried about teen use, is that they think the kids are stupid. They think that just say no will work. Give the kids the accurate information about these drugs and they will make sensible decisions about them. That's why tobacco and alcohol have fallen so much. And again, that's the real story here, is that we've discovered that the regulation of these drugs, of alcohol and tobacco, combined with strict carding, strict enforcement of age limits, removing alcohol from easy availability, removing tobacco from easy availability, putting it behind counters, having them locked down, having the people card them, does more to keep these kids from getting it than having it prohibited. In fact, this report once again shows, as it has consistently for about the past decade or so, actually since about past 2 decades, that about 80% of 12th graders said marijuana was fairly easy or very easy to obtain. Fairly easy or very easy to obtain under this system of prohibition. We also have found that the best way of keeping these substances out of kids' hands is through regulation. And we are going to see, as these numbers come in from Colorado and Washington, that as well. Despite this fear-mongering about kids are getting marijuana, this was the other headline, the one about the medical marijuana access. The teens, 34% of marijuana-using 12th graders living in states with medical marijuana laws say that one of the ways they obtain the drug is through someone else's medical marijuana prescription, which, again, is recommendation, but whatever. All this tells us is that if marijuana is available, if there is a way to access marijuana, people who smoke marijuana will access it that way. That's all it means. Since we are seeing the teen use of marijuana relatively flatlined, even though we have medical marijuana in these states, all we're seeing is a transfer of the distribution of marijuana away from criminals to more regulated sources. The fact that kids might be getting their all right, we don't want a kid to smoke pot, right? But suppose the kid is smoking pot. Is it better that it came from another kid in the school that got it from some guy who got it from some grower who put we don't know what on it? Or is it better that that kid got it from an older friend who has a medical marijuana recommendation and it came from a dispensary where it was tracked, where it was, inspected and made sure, not to have pesticides and funguses and molds? I'm not scared when they tell me, oh my God, kids are managing to access medical marijuana. Oh, gee. So they're changing from getting it from a more dangerous source to a less dangerous source. As long as the overall use isn't skyrocketing, I don't see what the problem is. And this type of scaremongering that the media engages in is largely at the direction and the imposition of our federal drug propaganda arm of the ONDCP. You get guys like Gil Kurlikowski coming out and saying that, more people are becoming more tolerant of marijuana and they're legalizing it everywhere and fewer kids think it's harmful. Yeah, kids aren't believing the BS anymore. They don't think it's going to grow man boobs. They don't think it's going to lead them to be, useless losers when they see people like Rihanna and Lady Gaga smoking pot and doing just fine. They've lost the battle on this one and there's no coming back from it. The legalization dominoes are falling, and they're going to have to get honest about why people use marijuana, and that includes why teenagers may use marijuana. And it seems just a bit disingenuous when this scare about teens using marijuana keeps coming at us, when we know how much our kids are overdrugged in this society with prescription drugs. And that's where we start to see what the real agenda is here. It's the agenda of the pharmaceutical companies and the healthcare industry that wants to see our kids continue to be doped up on Adderall and Ritalin and depressants and all sorts of other drugs out there. Drugs that oftentimes aren't actually tested on children for their use. We've become a society that wants everybody to fit in these nice, cozy little molds that we've gotten designed for everyone. And any kid that's outside of those, that is exceptional, outside of the box in any sort of way, we got to dumb them down. We got to calm them down. We got to do something to make sure that he turns out to be a good worker drone in our society. We've got our kids overdrugged. We're killing creativity. We're killing intelligence. We're killing spontaneity in these kids. But you want to lecture us about, they might be using pot. Hell, if I had to grow up in today's society with all the pressures that are on kids these days, I might have smoked some weed too. It's all the time we got here for Hour 1, but stay tuned. Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio is coming up next. We got more stories to take a look at in the Toker Talk Radio bin. Some really interesting ones today, including a look at Assemblyman Katz from New York. Remember the guy that was busted for pot, voted against pot? Well, he's investing in pot now. We've also got some BHO tards blowing some stuff up, this time on the East Coast, and NPR looking at pot legalization, and a story about Walter White and meth. A real one. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it,